He'll be on the air tonight when Arkansas battles South Carolina at Colonial Life Arena in Columbia. Chuck, always appreciate your time when you join us here. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I don't know that I can match that excitement level from those highlights, but I'm happy to be with you.
Well, maybe you'll get a chance later on tonight. Maybe.
I hope so. I hope so,
too. This basketball team's been so much fun to watch, so much fun. And we had a caller a moment ago. We spoke about what looks like some of the biggest difference in this team, and I think he pointed something out that's good. It's not a stationary offensive team, and it's also not a team now that has to get out on the run to score. They look more comfortable in the half court. They look more comfortable creating in those situations. What do you think is the biggest reason why this team is playing so well now compared to in January when they were still trying to gel and figure things out?
Well, they're in a rhythm, number one, and I don't think that can be discounted in basketball. But I think the biggest thing is the way they share the ball. I think that's the biggest thing. You look at, you look at the assist totals. They're up, and the shooting percentage is up as a result of that. And you've also got guys that have expanded their games, and I think that's a really big thing. Moses is getting more rebounds. Justin Smith's getting more assists. Note had 2 or 3 assists the other night. You've got guys who are doing things that maybe they didn't do a month or two ago. I also think the emergence of Davis cannot be overstated. He gets loose balls. He dives on the floor. He brings energy. He's a great defender. He gets to the basket. Those are things that have helped him. And, all the freshmen have emerged. Jalen's gotten better. Moses has gotten better. I think everybody's expanding their game now. And I think that's the big reason they're doing as well as they are.
And there's been a measure of consistency from all those players that you'd mentioned, maybe except for one of them. And I'd pick Devo Davis as my favorite player of this team back in January. He's been consistent. That's not the guy I'm asking about. Thought it was so big for Note to play as well as he did in the last game, especially, going out and scoring 18 points because he can be such a lightning bolt when he's on. But sometimes, some of the shot selection makes you scratch your head, and just feels like for Arkansas to make the sort of run that they look capable of, I feel like J.D. Note could be a really important piece of that.
He could be, certainly could be. Now, they won some games when he wasn't playing well. But he certainly does add a lot of, he adds a dimension to this team when he's playing well that, he can score. He's a better defender maybe than he gets credit for. I think people notice when they're stagnant and they notice him taking ill-advised shots, and there are times when he has. But, there's not anybody out there that has not had a deficiency that they've had to work on as the season's progressed. And I think one of the things, too, and we don't talk about this a lot, but I think that it probably needs to be talked about more, that in the modern era of college basketball, teams are assembled, and they're assembled on the fly. And a lot of times the first time you have everybody together on the floor is your first full practice. And so it takes time to develop. And I think you look around college basketball right now, the teams you better watch as we move through the next month are the teams that are gelling at the right time. Experienced teams, a lot of those teams really showed their mettle in January. And I'm not saying they're not good teams now, but I'm saying they were probably better than some of the teams they play just by virtue of their experience in January. But, I think the biggest thing with this team is they've just continued to develop. Everyone has continued to develop their game. And, we're to the point now where, everything should be clicking now. They've been together for a while, and I think it is clicking. And we're seeing the finished product of that work.
Chuck Barrett joining us here on Halftime. Chuck, you mentioned Devo just a minute ago with some of these freshmen that have really come to their own and started playing really well, and I think you really saw what Devo can not only bring to the table for this season, but moving forward as almost like a centerpiece for the team. We'll touch more on that in a second, but how's it been just kind of sitting courtside and watching the growth of Devo Davis, kind of going from a unknown, we didn't really know what he could bring to the table, to a guy that can that can score, that can obviously play defense, but can also dish the rock a little bit too.
Early on, KK was getting the minutes that, Devo ended up getting after KK went out. And early on, Davis was not a guy that was getting an abundance of minutes. I just think it's confidence. I think it's a freshman. He was not he wasn't one of those Fab Five guys, type guys that you expect to come in and build your team around right away. He was not as polished as, for example, Moses Moody when they started playing games. But I think a lot of it is confidence, and I think that you hear the phrase "the game slows down," and that phrase is used a lot. But I think there's also some truth to it, and I also think there comes a point for every player in every sport, when you're a young player, when you're a freshman, where, you stop thinking so much and you just cut it loose. And I think he did that. And I think as his game expanded, he was able to do that and not screw up. Mm-hmm. And, he protects the ball. He forces turnovers. He doesn't put you in bad spots generally. He's one of the things that I think makes Arkansas so dangerous is they've got 5 guys on the floor, generally speaking, at all times who can dribble, pass, and shoot. And I think once Devo got to the point, we knew he could dribble and pass. I think once we got to the point where, he figured out where he was going to score from and how he could be a weapon offensively. And I think we've seen a guy that's developed into a really good slasher to the basket. He's got a nice little mid-range shot. His game has just gotten better, and yeah, he's been fun to watch. He's a good player. He's an Arkansas kid, and I know a lot of people enjoy him.
When you look at this freshman nucleus that you got coming back, what you have right now, and what could be returning next season, and we'll just assume for this question that Moses Moody's going to move on to the NBA draft, but you got Jalen Williams, Devo Davis, KK Robinson coming back off an injury. Chuck, that's a really good nucleus of talent that's going to be returning next season, and I'm phrasing this in a way that we know that Coach Musselman loves to get those transfers to come in. Arkansas is going to be a really intriguing team looking ahead next season just based solely off the talent of these freshmen that are playing so well right now that are going to continue to grow and grow moving into next season.
That's the knack of running a college basketball program now is you have to assemble a team on the fly in certain situations, but you have to do that while you're building the foundation of your program. It's not all that easy to pull off, but I think he's doing that with the guys that you're talking about. And, those are players that you can build around. And, hey, there's more coming. There's a lot of good players out there, and some of them are in our state. And, I know that they want to keep reloading and keep having these type teams every year. And for Arkansas to be able to do this in the second year under a new coach, I think that's a good sign for things to come. But you're right. There is a nucleus there, and you have to have your nucleus even as you bring in transfers. If you totally bank on those guys, you're probably going to end up disappointed some. And I think that's the good thing that he's doing. He's got the nucleus to build around, and then you can obviously add some pieces as they have done through the transfer portal.
It sure has been fun this season, and it's still a lot to play for here. Got South Carolina tonight, then hopefully A&M Saturday, and then moving into the SEC tournament. Chuck, real quick before I throw it back over to Phil, what's the ceiling for this team? Is this, as we look at this team right now, is this a Sweet 16 team?
Oh, I think this team's playing well right now. I think they can play with anybody. I think they can win their first-round game. I think they can win their second-round game. And I think they can win after that. I also think that we've seen, and if you've followed the Razorbacks over the years, Arkansas has had some good teams that have gone out in the first round. That can happen, too. When you get to the NCAA tournament, it's a crapshoot. It's one and done, and if you're bad that day, it's over. But yeah, I think they're good enough to do that. Sure they are. It's just a matter of, who's clicking at the right time. And, the thing that's kind of frustrating is we're still a couple of weeks away from the NCAA tournament. So, you want to keep doing what you're doing. You don't want the highlight of your season to be beating Alabama and LSU in the same week. You want to do things moving forward. And so, a lot can happen between now and then. Who knows? But, yeah, if you're to ask me today, as you are, do I think they could get that far? Sure I do.
Chuck, let me ask you what you think it's like for these players. You can't be around the team the way we usually would be because of COVID, but you're around Coach Musselman enough to know that he's got a different energy than just about anybody else. What do you think it's like for these players to come into the basketball practice facility or Bud Walton Arena every day knowing that today probably isn't going to feel like yesterday because who the heck knows what Coach is going to do, but it's going to be entertaining?
Well, and there's a method to his madness too. I don't think that anyone should operate under the illusion that practice is like a social media post because it's not. It's very different. He's a taskmaster, and he's a ball coach, and he's. But I do think this, and I've always thought this, that the head coach sets the tone. He sets the tone every day. And if you're consistent in what you do every day, your team will respond. I think look, we've all worked around people that, are high energy, and I mean, they're liable to say anything. And maybe, some of us at times are like that. And I think some days you just kind of roll with it. And some days you feed off of it. But I think that, particularly in his preparation, he is meticulous. And he demands, and I think this is one of the keys to, what he does, is everybody around him's got to be prepared because there is an air of unpredictability there. And you know that his preparation is going to be at a high level. And so if you work around him, your preparation better be at a high level too. And I think that goes for everyone. I think that's what he rubs off, and I think that's what's contagious. And emotion's a big part of it. It certainly is. But preparation and execution are equal parts too. And sometimes I don't think he gets all the credit he deserves for that.
I think you're right about that. Chuck, we got to run. Always appreciate your time jumping on here. Well, I've been loving listening to you and Z. You guys always do a great job. Be looking forward to listening to you guys tonight.
All right, guys. Thanks. I enjoyed it.
You got it. That's Chuck Barrett, voice of the Razorbacks, joining us here. And I think any one of the players that joins an Eric Musselman team, so like if you hear that Hog Pod with Justin Smith, and we heard other players that were coming into the program over the last year say the same thing. Like Eric Musselman had already broken down their entire game. I'm sure he had help from his coaching staff, but he'd broken down Justin Smith's game piece by piece. I think he did the exact same thing with everybody that comes to this team, even before they play a game for him or even practice for him once. The amount of preparation that Muss puts in, I think it has paid dividends, and I think you can notice that. Just listen to the players talk about them. All right, we'll wrap the show up after the break with Get Off My Lawn, and that will come next.